Evening. That's an expensive vehicle. Whose car is this?
Mine, officer. Is there
Yours?
a problem?
Really? What do you do for work to afford something like that?
I'm a cardiovascular surgeon, County Memorial.
A surgeon, right?
There are only 47 pediatric cardiac surgeons in the state, and Dr. Matthew Curtis was one of them. On March 24th, he had just finished one of the longest shifts of his career and was heading home. He was exhausted. His eyes were red from surgical lights, running on fumes after 18 long hours in an operating room. And the only thing on his mind was to go home, hug his wife and kids, and then collapse on his bed. But first he needed to get gas. Little did he know that a rookie cop had already decided he looked suspicious the moment he pulled in. Unfortunately, on the other hand, Officer Griffin also didn't know that the man he was about to harass was a cardiovascular surgeon who had spent the entire day saving 3 lives that would have been lost without him. Stay tuned. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment below and smash that subscribe button, because what happens next will blow your mind. Matthew Curtis was 37 years old and had been practicing cardiovascular surgery for more than 7 years. He'd gone to medical school at Johns Hopkins, did his residency at Massachusetts General Hospital. He specialized in emergency heart valve replacements, aortic dissections, congenital defects in newborns. He'd saved hundreds of lives over his career, lost some too, and those were the ones that haunted him on nights when he couldn't sleep. That Saturday night, Matthew had finally left County Memorial Hospital around 10 p.m. The shift had been brutal. He'd been called in at 4 a.m. for an emergency triple bypass, then a valve replacement on his 62-year-old grandmother. Then, at 6 p.m., just as he thought he might finally leave, an aortic dissection came crashing through the ER doors. A 42-year-old father of 3 whose aorta was literally tearing apart inside his chest. 18 hours. 18 straight hours on his feet under surgical lights, making split-second decisions that meant the difference between someone's father coming home or never waking up. The exhaustion wasn't just physical. It was the kind that settled into your bones, made your hands shake slightly, made your eyes burn. The PTSD of the medical kind, not from combat, but from watching people die despite your best efforts. From telling families their loved one didn't make it. From the constant pressure of knowing that one wrong move, one miscalculation, one moment of distraction could cost a life. Matthew lived with his wife Sarah and their 2 daughters, Emily, 8, and Alice, 5, in a comfortable house about 30 minutes from the hospital. Sarah was probably asleep on the couch by now, the TV still on, waiting for him like she always did after his marathon shifts. His daughter, Emily, had made him promise that morning, before he left in the dark for that 4 a.m. call, that if he wasn't too tired, he'd take them to the park on Sunday morning. That promise was the only thing keeping him conscious as he drove. He'd changed out of his blood-spattered scrubs in the locker room, thrown on the most comfortable clothes he owned. A burgundy Henley and cargo shorts he kept in his car specifically for post-shift comfort, and his worn New Balance sneakers that had seen better days. He looked like a weekend dad heading home from the gym, not a surgeon coming home from literally holding beating hearts in his hands. He was low on gas, running on empty just like his body. So he pulled into a Shell station off Highway 9. The station was well lit, quiet for Saturday night. A man in a business suit pumping gas into his BMW. A woman in yoga clothes filling up her Lexus. The convenience store glowed yellow in the background. Nothing unusual. Matthew pulled up to pump 4, got out of his jet black Mercedes Maybach, a car he'd saved for years to buy, his reward to himself after completing his fellowship in pediatric cardiac surgery, and inserted his credit card. While the machine processed, he stood there, one hand resting on the car roof, the other holding the nozzle, his posture relaxed, but his mind still half in the operating room. He didn't notice the police cruiser that had pulled into the station. Didn't see rookie Officer Alex Griffin watching him from the driver's seat, running his license plates through the system. Didn't realize he was about to become a problem that needed to be investigated. Officer Alex Griffin had been with the police department for exactly 5 months. He was working the night shift solo. His training officer had called in sick, and the department was short-staffed, so they'd sent Griffin out alone. He was patrolling Highway 9 when he decided to pull into the Shell station to check the area. That's when he saw Matthew standing at the pump. Something about the guy seemed off to Griffin. A black man in casual clothes, cargo shorts, and a wrinkled Henley like he'd just rolled out of bed, standing next to a jet black Mercedes Maybach that probably cost more than Griffin would make in 7 years. The guy looked tired, almost out of it, just standing there with his hand on the expensive car. His eyes looked red. His posture was slouched. In Griffin's 5 months of experience, people who drove cars like that and looked like that at gas stations late at night were usually up to something. Stolen vehicles, drug money, identity theft, maybe intoxication. The visual didn't add up. Expensive car, cheap casual clothes, exhausted appearance. Something was wrong. Griffin sat in his patrol car and watched for about 90 seconds. He ran the plates through the system. They came back clean. Registered to a Matthew Curtis, MD. No warrants. No flags. Nothing suspicious in the database. The body camera footage showed exactly what happened next. Griffin's camera captured him walking past Pump 2, where the white man in the business suit was capping his BMW's gas tank. Then past Pump 3, where the woman in yoga clothes was swiping her credit card at her Lexus. The camera kept moving until it focused on Pump 4. On Dr. Matthew Curtis. Griffin's first words weren't a greeting. They were an accusation. Evening. That's an expensive vehicle. Whose car is this? Matthew looked up from the pump, his hand still on the nozzle. He was too tired for this. Too tired for games. Mine, officer. Is there a problem? Griffin's eyes narrowed. The way this guy said it, so casual, so matter-of-fact. Like owning a car worth more than most people's houses was nothing. Yours? Really? What do you do for work to afford something like that? Matthew could feel the exhaustion pulling at him, making his words slow. I'm a cardiovascular surgeon. County Memorial Hospital. Griffin actually scoffed. The sound was picked up clearly on the body camera audio. A surgeon. Right. His eyes traveled from Matthew's wrinkled Henley down to his cargo shorts and worn sneakers. This guy looked like he'd just rolled out of bed, not like he'd come from saving lives. You got ID? Registration? Proof you own this vehicle? Matthew's eyes were burning. Red from the surgical lights. Red from exhaustion. He could feel Griffin staring at them. Officer, I'm pumping gas. My wallet's in the car. Hospital credentials are in there too. But Griffin was already backing up slightly, his hand drifting toward his belt. You been drinking tonight? Your eyes look red. My eyes are red because I've been under surgical lights since 4 a.m. Matthew's voice was flat. Clinical. The same tone he used when explaining procedures to confuse patients. I just finished an 18-hour shift. Griffin didn't look convinced. His eyes dropped to Matthew's left wrist, catching the glint of the medical watch. What's that device? You on some kind of monitoring? It's a hospital paging system. I'm on call for emergencies. Don't touch it. Keep your hands where I can see them. Griffin took the wallet Matthew had retrieved, the hospital ID badge, the driver's license, the insurance card. He walked back to his patrol car without another word. Matthew stood there at Pump 4, gas nozzle in hand, watching Griffin sit in his cruiser. 1 minute passed, then 2, then 5. The body camera later showed Griffin running Matthew's name through every database available. Criminal history, warrants, traffic violations, vehicle registration, professional licenses. Everything came back clean. Everything confirmed exactly what Matthew had said. Dr. Matthew Curtis, cardiovascular surgeon, licensed, registered vehicle owner, no criminal record, no flags, nothing. 7 minutes. 7 minutes while Matthew stood there, exhausted, just wanted to go home. 7 minutes while other customers came and went, pumping their gas and leaving without a second glance from anyone. Griffin finally got out of his car and walked back. No apology, no acknowledgement, just handed the documents back like he was doing Matthew a favor. Matthew took his documents back, his jaw tight. He was done being polite. Officer, I've complied with everything you've asked. Can I have your name and badge number? Griffin's posture shifted. His shoulders squared. Why do you need that? Because I have a right to it. And because I need to get home to my family. You're being uncooperative. Griffin's hand moved back toward his belt. I'm going to need you to step away from the vehicle. Matthew didn't move. What law am I breaking by pumping gas? Griffin didn't answer. Instead, he turned and spoke into his radio. Need backup at Shell Station Highway 9. Uncooperative individual, possible intoxication, refusing to comply. Matthew felt his medical watch vibrate against his wrist. Once, twice, 3 times. The hospital. Someone needed him. His eyes dropped to the screen. Post-op complication. Patient from a morning surgery showing concerning vitals. Officer, I need to answer this. It's the hospital. Someone might be dying. Griffin stepped closer. You're not touching anything until backup arrives. People's lives are at stake. I need to call the hospital. That's not my problem. Matthew stood there, feeling his watch vibrate again and again. Each was a reminder that somewhere in County Memorial, a patient was crashing and he couldn't respond. His hands that had held beating hearts just hours ago were being treated like weapons. The irony wasn't lost on him. 6 minutes later, 2 more patrol cars pulled into the station. 2 officers emerged, one older with gray at his temples, one younger but more seasoned than Griffin. The veteran officer took one look at the scene and his expression changed. Matthew made his move before anyone could stop him. He pulled out his phone, held it up. I'm recording this. My name is Dr. Matthew Curtis, cardiovascular surgeon at County Memorial Hospital. Badge number visible on my hospital ID. Today is March 24th, 10:54 p.m. I stopped for gas after 18 hours of surgery. I've been detained for 41 minutes for pumping gas while black. The veteran officer looked at Griffin. Did you run the plates? Yes. Came back clean. So what's the issue here? Griffin had no answer. The veteran officer turned to Matthew. Sir, are you free to leave? Will you leave? Matthew's voice was steady. Surgical. I'll leave once I have Officer Griffin's name and badge number, and once I'm allowed to respond to my hospital's emergency page. 3 families are waiting for their loved ones to come out of my surgeries alive today. I won't let a rookie cop's racial profiling prevent me from doing my job. The veteran officer sighed, visibly frustrated. He rattled off Griffin's information and his own without being asked. Go ahead and check your page, doctor. Matthew looked at his watch. The message was clear. Patient deteriorating. He'd dial the hospital, putting it on speaker so the officers could hear. This is Dr. Curtis. What's the status on Mr. Patterson? The nurse's voice came through frantic. Doctor, his pressure's dropping. 90/60. Heart rate 140. We think he's bleeding internally. Matthew's exhaustion vanished. His mind snapped into surgical precision. Start 2 large-bore IVs. Type and cross for 6 units. Give me a CBC, coags, and a portable chest x-ray. Push 500 cc's normal saline wide open. I want someone's hand on his abdomen feeling for rigidity. If his pressure drops below 80 systolic, call the OR and tell them I'm coming in. Yes, doctor. And page Dr. Williams. Tell him to meet me there in 20 minutes. Matthew ended the call and looked at the 3 officers. Griffin stood silent, finally understanding who he'd detained. Matthew got in his Mercedes without another word. The body camera captured everything. 43 minutes. That's how long it took to pump gas while black and successful. He drove away, leaving Griffin standing under the fluorescent lights, his career already over, and he didn't even know it yet. 2 weeks later, Dr. Matthew Curtis filed a lawsuit. Not for thousands. For $22 million. The complaint was 53 pages long and detailed every second of those 43 minutes. Every assumption, every violation, every moment his medical watch vibrated while a rookie cop decided his ego mattered more than someone's life. The body camera footage was released as part of the public court filing. Within 24 hours, it had 3 million views. Within 48 hours, 8 million. By the end of 72 hours, over 12 million people had watched a cardiovascular surgeon be treated like a criminal for pumping gas after saving 3 lives. The medical community erupted. Doctors across the country shared the video with a simple caption: "This could be any of us." Within days, hashtag Let Doctors Rest was trending nationwide. Hashtag Respect Essential Workers followed. Surgeons posted photos of themselves in scrubs next to photos in casual clothes. The message was clear: we don't stop being professionals just because we're exhausted and want to be comfortable. The city made their first catastrophic mistake. They defended Griffin. Their official statement claimed he had been conducting routine checks and that Dr. Curtis had been uncooperative. The statement landed like a bomb. Someone created a split-screen video. On one side, hospital security footage showed Dr. Curtis in full surgical gear, hands deep in a patient's chest cavity. On the other side, the body cam footage showed him being interrogated at a gas station. The video went viral faster than the original. Griffin was placed on administrative leave while the department investigated. The investigation took 6 weeks. During those weeks, the city's lawyers tried to make the problem go away quietly. They offered $750,000. Dr. Curtis's response was 2 sentences. "That's what you pay for malpractice, not racism. See you in court." They came back with $2.5 million. Curtis refused. "My time is worth more than that." They offered $5 million. Curtis gave one interview to explain why he turned it down. He sat in his office at County Memorial, still in his scrubs from that day's surgeries, and spoke directly into the camera. "This isn't about my money. This is about a rookie cop with 5 months of experience being sent out alone to make life and death decisions. It's about training failures that don't just cost badges, they cost lives." That night, while Officer Griffin was running my plates for the 3rd time, a patient was coding. While he was calling backup because I asked for his badge number, someone's husband was bleeding internally. This isn't about what happened to me. It's about what could have happened to my patient. And what will keep happening until departments realize that racial profiling doesn't just violate rights, it kills people. The trial was scheduled for 10 months later. The trial began on a Tuesday morning in January, 10 months after that night at the Shell station. It would last 10 days, but in reality, it was over the moment the prosecution played the body camera footage. All 43 minutes. Twice. No commentary. No explanation. Just Officer Alex Griffin walking past 2 white customers to confront a black surgeon. Just 7 minutes of database checks that came back clean. Just a rookie cop saying, "That's not my problem," when told someone might be dying. The jury watched in silence. Then the prosecution played hospital security footage from that same day. Dr. Matthew Curtis in full surgical gear at 6:47 a.m., entering or 3 for the triple bypass. At 2:15 p.m., standing at a surgical table, hands inside a patient's chest. At 8:34 p.m., closing up the aortic dissection that had nearly killed a father of 3. The contrast was devastating. The man saving lives in the morning was the same man being treated like a criminal that night. 3 patients testified. Emma Rodriguez, the 62-year-old grandmother whose valve Dr. Curtis had replaced, walked slowly to the stand. "He gave me my life back. I get to see my grandchildren grow up because of him." Michael Patterson, the 42-year-old father whose aorta had been dissected, his voice breaking. "Dr. Curtis saved my life that day." Then that same night, while I was coding, he was being detained at a gas station. My complication happened because he couldn't respond immediately. I needed additional surgery. 3 extra days in ICU. All because a cop decided he looked suspicious. The courtroom went silent. An expert witness in surgeon trauma took the stand. Dr. Layla Ware, a psychiatrist specializing in medical professional PTSD, explained what happens when you spend 18 hours making life or death decisions, then get threatened while exhausted. The psychological impact is profound. You spend your day being trusted with human lives, then you're treated like a threat. It creates a cognitive dissonance that can end careers. The hospital administrator, a gray-haired woman named Patricia Wells, was blunt. There are 47 pediatric cardiac surgeons in this state. Dr. Curtis is one of them. We cannot afford to lose him because a rookie cop made him afraid to pump gas. The city needs him. Patients need him. Children need him alive. Then came the moment that sealed Griffin's fate. The prosecution played the audio again. Just 11 seconds. Officer, I need to answer this. It's the hospital. Someone might be dying. You're not touching anything until backup arrives. People's lives are at stake. I need to call the hospital. That's not my problem. The jury's faces said everything. One woman in the front row had tears streaming down her cheeks. Dr. Curtis testified for 7 hours over 3 days. He described each surgery in clinical detail. The triple bypass on a 58-year-old teacher. The valve replacement on Emma. The aortic dissection on Michael. He explained how he'd promised his daughters, Emily and Alice, that he'd take them to the park the next morning if he wasn't too exhausted. How his wife, Sarah, waited up for him every shift, worried. He described the fear. I had just held 3 human hearts in my hands that day. I had made decisions that saved 3 families from devastating loss. And then I'm standing at a gas station, and a rookie cop's hand is on his weapon because I'm reaching for my wallet. Despite everything I'd done that day, despite my credentials, despite my clean record, I was still seen as a threat. I was still suspicious. His voice didn't waver. And the worst part? My daughters asked me 2 days later, "Daddy, why do the policemen think you were bad?" I'm a cardiovascular surgeon. I save lives for a living. And I had no answer for them. The defense attorney made a fatal mistake. He stood up during closing arguments and claimed Griffin had just been doing his job. That racial profiling was a necessary tool. That Dr. Curtis's expensive car and casual clothes justified suspicion. The prosecution played the body camera footage one more time in response. 43 minutes of a surgeon being profiled. 7 minutes of clean database checks being ignored. 11 seconds of "that's not my problem." The jury deliberated for 5 hours. When they returned, the forewoman stood. In the matter of Curtis versus the city, we find in favor of the plaintiff. We award $7 million in compensatory damages for emotional distress, professional humiliation, and violation of civil rights. We award $15 million in punitive damages for inadequate training, institutional negligence, and failure to protect essential professionals. $22 million total. The courtroom erupted. Dr. Curtis sat quietly, his hands folded on the table. The same hands that had saved 3 lives. He didn't celebrate. He just nodded slowly, then reached for his daughter's hands. Emily, now 9, and Alice, now 6, squeezed back. They'd come to watch justice happen. Officer Alex Griffin wasn't in the courtroom. He'd stopped coming after day 3. Officer Alex Griffin was fired 6 days after the verdict. His total time in law enforcement, 11 months. The police union filed an appeal claiming he'd been made a scapegoat. The appeal was denied. He tried to get hired by 3 suburban departments. All 3 rejected him the moment they saw his name. The last anyone heard, he was working mall security 2 states away. His law enforcement career was over before it really began. The city appealed the verdict. Every appeal was denied. 14 months after the trial, they finally cut the check. $22 million. The largest civil rights settlement in state history for discrimination against a professional. The headline ran in every major newspaper. City pays surgeon $22 million after rookie cop blocks emergency response. Dr. Matthew Curtis took 3 weeks of medical leave. It was the first time in his 12-year career he'd stepped away from surgery. The PTSD was real, not from combat, but from being treated like a threat after saving lives. He saw a therapist. He processed. He healed. Then he went back to work, back to the operating room, back to holding hearts in his hands, back to saving lives. Because that's what he did. That's who he was. He donated $10 million before the money even cleared. $5 million went to a legal defense fund for medical professionals facing discrimination. Doctors, nurses, paramedics who couldn't afford to fight back the way he could. $5 million went to police academies across the country with one condition: mandatory training modules on recognizing professional credentials and understanding that exhausted essential workers aren't criminals. The remaining $12 million went into trust funds for Emily and Alice. Their college, their futures, their fathers promised that they'd never have to choose between comfort and dignity. The police department implemented changes that rippled nationwide. Every rookie officer now required a 2-year mentorship. No solo patrols in the first year. No inexperienced cops making life and death decisions alone. Body cameras were upgraded with a professional verification feature that could scan medical badges, bar association cards, federal IDs. Officers received quarterly training on implicit bias, with specific focus on success profiling, the assumption that black wealth equals criminality. A new protocol was created: immediate recognition and respect for emergency professionals. Doctors, nurses, paramedics, firefighters. People whose jobs required them to respond to emergencies even when off duty. People who saved lives. The reform spread. 12 states adopted similar policies. The Curtis case became required study material in police academies. Not as a cautionary tale, as a reckoning. Shell Station on Highway 9 became a landmark. Pump 4, where Dr. Curtis had been detained for 43 minutes, got a small bronze plaque: "Respect essential workers." Customers would stop and read it, remembering the story, remembering that dignity matters, that assumptions kill. Dr. Curtis continued his work at County Memorial. 300 surgeries a year, hundreds of lives saved. He spoke at medical conferences now, his topic always the same: you can save lives all day and still be seen as a threat. Medical students, especially students of color, cited him as their reason for pursuing surgery despite the risks. Because he'd proven that accountability was possible, that justice could happen, that speaking up mattered. His daughters grew. Emily turned 10. Alice turned 7. And when they asked their father about that night, about why the policeman thought he was bad, he finally had an answer: because some people can't see past their assumptions. But we changed that. We made sure it matters. Years passed. Dr. Matthew Curtis never stopped operating. 300 surgeries a year, sometimes more. Hearts repaired. Lives saved. Families kept whole. He became one of the most sought-after cardiac surgeons in the state, not despite what happened, but because of how he'd responded to it. He spoke at medical conferences across the country. His keynote was always the same: the dignity of essential work. He'd stand on stage in his scrubs, sometimes straight from the oar, and tell the story. Not for sympathy, for change. "We save lives," he'd say, "but we're still human. We get tired. We want comfort. We deserve to pump gas without being treated like criminals." The Shell Station on Highway 9 became more than a gas station. It became a symbol. Pump 4, where everything happened, drew visitors. People would pull up, take photos of the bronze plaque, post them online with hashtag Respect Essential Workers. The station owner kept the plaque polished. It meant something. The Curtis case was now taught in every major police academy in 47 states. Not in a PowerPoint slide buried in a diversity module. As a full case study. Hour-long analysis. What went wrong? Why it mattered? How it changed everything. Rookie officers watched that 43-minute body camera footage and learned what not to do. They learned that assumptions kill, that credentials matter, that exhausted professionals deserve respect. Medical students wrote about him in their application essays. Dr. Curtis showed me that we can fight back was a common theme. Students of color especially. They saw someone who looked like them, who'd been profiled despite everything he'd achieved, and who'd won, who'd changed systems, who'd proven that speaking up wasn't career suicide, it was necessary. 3 years after the verdict, Dr. Curtis gave one final interview. A journalist asked the question everyone wanted answered. Some people still say $22 million was excessive for a gas station incident. What do you say to them? Curtis looked directly into the camera. His voice was steady. Surgical. Let me tell you what's excessive. I spent 18 hours that day holding 3 human hearts in my hands. Literally. One was a 6-year-old girl named Emma. Her parents sat in a waiting room praying I could fix their daughter's valve. I did. I told them she'd live to see her graduation. Then I stopped for gas on my way home to my own daughters. And a rookie cop with 5 months of experience decided I looked suspicious. Decided my exhaustion looked like intoxication. Decided my expensive car must be stolen. Decided my medical credentials might be fake. And when the hospital paged me because a patient was dying, he said, "And this is on camera, that's not my problem." So you ask if $22 million is excessive? I ask, what's the value of a surgeon who can save lives but is afraid to pump gas? What's the value of a father who has to explain to his daughters that even saving lives won't make him safe? What's the value of a black professional who can never just be tired, just be casual, just be human? If you could put a price on those things, then tell me if $22 million is excessive. Until then, I stand with the jury. The interview went viral again. 15 million views in a week. The body camera footage never went away. It stayed online. A teaching tool. A reminder. Evidence that this happened. That it still happens. That it has to stop. There's a photo from the settlement press conference that became iconic. Dr. Curtis in a dark suit, standing at a podium. His daughters, Emily, 9, and Alice, 6, on either side of him, each holding one of his hands. The hands that save lives. The hands that were treated as weapons. The hands that fought back and won. The photo ran in Time magazine with a simple caption, "Essential," because that's what this was always about. Society cannot function if it criminalizes its essential professionals. Doctors, nurses, teachers, first responders. The people who keep us alive, who educate our children, who run into danger when everyone else runs out. If they can't pump gas without being profiled, if they can't exist in public spaces without suspicion, if their exhaustion is criminalized and their success is doubted, then society itself breaks down. Dr. Matthew Curtis proved that fighting back matters. That documentation matters. That body cameras cut both ways. That justice, when you push hard enough, can actually happen. He still works at County Memorial Hospital, still saves lives, still wears his burgundy Henley and cargo shorts when his shift ends, still drives his black Mercedes Maybach, still stops for gas when he needs to. But now, when he pulls into a station, officers recognize him. They nod. They thank him for his service. Not his surgical service. His service to accountability. And somewhere, in 47 states across the country, rookie cops watch that 43-minute video in a darkened classroom and learn the most expensive lesson their departments ever paid for. Assumptions cost $22 million. Dignity is priceless. If this story opened your eyes, if it made you think, if it reminded you that essential workers deserve respect, hit that like button. Share this video. Subscribe to this channel. These stories need to be told. These lessons need to be learned. And change only happens when we refuse to stay silent. Dr. Matthew Curtis refused, and he won.